I've been with Ethan Miller for this long, just like you asked. Can you finally say yes to me? Sarah Davis's voice was pleading, a tone she'd never used with anyone before, so utterly beneath her. The man lounging across from her, Ryan Shaw, had his legs casually crossed, an air of lazy triumph about him. He swirled the wine in his glass, then lifted his gaze to her. Sarah, darling, he murmured just a little longer. I promise you, right here, in front of everyone, I'll say yes. But I'm not done having my fun yet. I want to tell Ethan the truth at your engagement party. Then I'll be the one putting a ring on your finger. Seriously, I can't wait to see the look on his face. Ha ha. Ethan worships the ground Sarah walks on. He'll definitely lose it. What good is his deep love? Our Sarah only has eyes for Ryan. Exactly. He's just a chauffeur's son. Did he really think he could land a girl like her? Way out his league. Their friends chimed in, egging them on, saying Ryan and Sarah were the perfect couple. Ryan's smirk widened, and Sarah blushed, playing the part of a shy, smitten girl. The atmosphere in the private VIP section was electric, filled with raucous laughter. But outside the door, my heart felt like it had plunged into an icy abyss. Their cruel jeers were like tiny hammers, shattering my frozen core into a million pieces. 5 minutes earlier, I'd been in there with them, sitting next to Sarah, our bodies close, acting like any other couple deeply in love. People around us kept joking about how we were giving them their daily dose of PDA. If someone's joke went too far, Sarah would even jump to my defense. Ryan, sprawled on the sofa, had been watching us with a knowing look. Then he'd casually picked up a pack of cigarettes from the table, glanced inside, and crushed it before tossing it on the floor. Damn, out of smokes. Kills the mood. Instantly, a few guys eager to please him pulled out their own packs. Ryan, man, have one of ours. Ryan didn't even look at them. I only smoke sovereigns. Anything else makes me cough. The guys sheepishly put their cigarettes away and backed off. Then he smiled at me. Ethan, my friend, would you mind doing me a favor and making a run? As the son of one of the wealthiest families in the state, he usually treated everyone else with a cool indifference. But he'd always been surprisingly friendly to me. Of course, I couldn't refuse. I just Venmo'd you $3,000. A carton of sovereigns is $1,500. The rest is for your trouble. He was certainly generous. I walked a few steps out of the room, then realized I'd forgotten my phone. When I turned back to get it, I overheard their conversation from outside the door. I waited until they'd moved on to another topic. Then, schooling my features, I opened the door. What took you so fast? Sarah asked, smiling at me, just like she always did. Ever since she'd started pursuing me, she never spoke to me without that smile. I thought she genuinely loved me. Turns out, her acting skills could rival Meryl Streep's. Was about to pay and realized I didn't have my phone. You guys carry on. I'll be right back. I try to keep my voice and expression normal, joking with them as usual. I grabbed my phone and made the run. When I returned, everyone was acting as if nothing had happened. For a moment, I even wondered if I'd misheard them. Looking at Sarah, who gazed at me with such apparent affection, at Ryan, who clapped me on the shoulder like a brother, and at all those supposedly sincere friends. I just couldn't understand why they'd pull something like this on a show for Sun. Was it just to satisfy some twisted sense of amusement? My dad was Sarah Davis's family chauffeur. We were poor, so he started working right after middle school. He was honest and quick on his feet, so the Davises hired him for odd jobs. Once he was old enough, he got his driver's license and became Mr. Davis's personal driver. Later, my mother was hired as a maid. To make things easier, they were both given rooms at the Davis estate. I remember moving in with them when I was in the 8th grade. Because I was a good student and the same age as Sarah, they enrolled me in the same prestigious private school she attended, St. Andrews Prep. We studied together, and I'd help her with anything she didn't understand when we got home. I was like a modern-day study companion, always by her side. Sarah's grades improved Zametna, even more than when she had private tutors. The friendly competition between us, plus her own competitive nature, made studying more effective. Being with her constantly meant I became part of her inner circle, a clique of kids from families that had been wealthy for generations. Ryan Shaw was the undisputed leader of this group. Before I arrived, he was top dog in everything. Sarah had a huge crush on him, hanging on his every word since they were little. Ryan was handsome, came from a great family, and was always one of the top students. Girls had flocked to him since elementary school. By middle school, he was getting love notes, actual paper ones back then, from girls in different grades every day. His favorite ritual was to go home, gather all the notes from his backpack, and set them on fire, watching the flames with a disdainful smirk. But when I arrived at St. Andrews in 8th grade, I edged him out in both height and looks. And on my first set of exams, I scored top of the class. Naturally, a lot of his fan club shifted their attention to me. Sarah was thrilled. Fewer girls were fawning over her crush. To add fuel to the fire, she started telling everyone I was her brother. We both had strong features, so we did look somewhat alike. Plus, Ryan was naturally arrogant, always cool and aloof with everyone. After a while, some people found him boring and gave up. But I was different. I'm easygoing by nature, maybe because of my background, so I don't look down on people. Even if I wasn't interested in someone romantically, I wouldn't turn them down too harshly. Soon, I had completely taken Ryan's place as the most sought-after guy, receiving a flood of adoring messages and notes from girls every day. Ryan saw it all and seethed internally. He might have acted cool and unfazed on the surface, but deep down, he loved being the center of attention, like a celebrity. And so, we all went on to high school together. At first, I was still just as popular. Excellence tends to do that. One day at lunch, after we'd been shooting some hoops, two of Sarah's best friends ran over, telling me there was something amazing I had to see right now. They led me to the school quad, where a large crowd had gathered. What's all the commotion? They exchanged a smile. You'll see when you get there. As we approached, her friends shouted, "The man of the hour is here. Make way, make way." The crowd parted, and I saw Sarah standing in the middle, holding a bouquet of flowers, her eyes red and her expression unreadable. She looked like she'd been crying. Concerned like I always was for her, I walked over to comfort her. "What's wrong? Who made you cry? Tell me." My 6'1" basketball player physique wasn't just for show. No, nobody bullied me. She glanced to the side, but I didn't think much of it. "Ethan, I like you. Be my boyfriend." Sarah's sudden declaration completely floored me. What? What did you say? It wasn't that I hadn't heard her. I just couldn't believe it. After all, I'd never even dared to think of her as just a friend. No matter how nice she was to me, my attitude towards her was more like that of an employee to a boss. Her face flushed slightly, and she took a deep breath. "I like you. Be my boyfriend." She looked at me, still frozen in place, unresponsive. Then she lowered her voice. "There are a lot of people here. If you dare say no, you know what'll happen." What kind of confession was this? There was a huge crowd, but the place wasn't decorated at all. If it weren't for the flowers in her hand, no one would have guessed it was a public proposal. But, I was about to speak when she cut me off with a sharp sound. "But, I agree. The habit of obedience I developed over the past 2 years made me instinctively say yes." Then she shoved the flowers into my hands, grabbed me, and started pulling me away. Before we left, she glanced back in that same direction again. I was still trying to figure out what was happening as she practically dragged me off. But ever since that day, Sarah developed a strange illness called aplastic anemia. They said it was due to her bone marrow's declining ability to produce blood cells, and she needed regular transfusions to manage the anemia. As it happened, we had the same rare blood type. I still remember her looking at me so pitifully, her eyes red, saying, "Ethan, I don't want someone else's blood in my body. It feels dirty. Only you are special to me. But I can't bear the thought of you having to donate blood twice a month for me. So this must be my fate. Just don't worry about me." Then she threw her arms around me and burst into tears. Her crying broke my heart. I held her tight, whispering reassurances. "Don't be silly. I'm young. Donating twice a month will just help my body refresh its blood supply. It's good for me." Actually, I knew that a person shouldn't donate blood more than 20 times a year, or it could harm their health. But to comfort her, I lied. At first, she adamantly refused. But after I pleaded with her repeatedly, she finally agreed. From then on, our relationship grew stronger. She'd instruct the chef to cook more iron-rich foods. When we were alone, she'd give me expensive health supplements, telling me to take them back to my room to consume. Initially, I didn't feel much. But after about 2 years, I started to notice my body wasn't right. Sometimes I'd suddenly get dizzy spells, feel completely drained, and it would take a long time to recover. Eventually, I even had to give up basketball, my greatest passion, but I didn't regret it at all. For the woman I loved, giving up a hobby was nothing. Later, when we got to college, Sarah, for some reason, had a string of terrible luck. She was always running into trouble, like the time she was at an arcade, and some local thug started harassing her. She'd call me, and I'd rush over as fast as I could. I'd get into a fight with them and end up in the hospital. The problem was, this kind of thing happened more than once. She would encourage me to participate in all sorts of competitions and activities. I'd usually show her my work first, and then, on the day of the competition, there would invariably be an identical project submitted by someone else. And these people were always either my friends or my own roommates. After a while, the accusation of plagiarism stuck. Eventually, I was banned from participating in any campus activities. Since it was always people close to me, I never suspected anything else. Looking back, they must have all been bought off. I couldn't play basketball, couldn't join any activities. I had been a model student in the eyes of teachers and classmates. Now I was practically an outcast. It felt like all my hobbies, everything I enjoyed, had been taken away from me. There was nothing else for it. At school, studying was my only path left. I'd always been a top student, and now I was working harder than ever. So, by senior year, I was consistently ranked #1 in our year. I was incredibly confident going into the final exams. I remember that day, Sarah and I drove to campus as usual. I was particularly excited and practically sprinted towards the exam hall after getting out of the car. "What's your hurry? Take this water bottle. You don't want to get thirsty later and have nothing to drink." I turned back and saw her holding an exquisite thermos, her eyes soft as she looked at me. I was so touched at that moment, thinking how considerate she always was. So, I hurried back and took the thermos from her hand. Then I scratched the back of my head, grinning foolishly. You're the best. Don't be silly. You're my boyfriend. Who else would I be good to? Ace that exam. You got this #1 spot locked down." Her gaze was full of love. I got to the exam hall early and felt a bit thirsty, probably because breakfast had been a little salty. I was grateful Sarah had given me the water. I unscrewed the cap and chugged down more than half of it. She even put sugar in it for me. How thoughtful. In that moment, I felt like I must have done something incredibly good in a past life to deserve such a wonderful girlfriend. But not long after I started the exam, I began to feel dizzy. My vision blurred. I felt incredibly groggy, and it was a struggle just to keep my eyes open. I'd had dizzy spells from anemia before, but never like this. The whole morning passed in a haze. At lunch, I took some iron pills with the remaining water. Usually, after taking medication and resting a bit, I'd feel better. But that afternoon, it was just as bad. When I got home, I was immediately rushed to the hospital. I was hospitalized for several days before I slowly started to recover. Needless to say, the exams were a disaster. Seeing me so dejected, she cried inconsolably, holding me in her arms and comforting me. "Even though you bombed the exams, I promise you, as long as I'm here, you won't be worse off than anyone else." Those few days, my spirits were incredibly low. The sky itself seemed gray. My academic success was the one thing I was truly proud of. I loved Sarah, but I felt like the current me wasn't good enough for her. That's why I've been working so desperately to make something of myself. But reality hit me hard. Fortunately, I still had Sarah. She canceled everything to be by my side constantly. It was because of her comfort and companionship that I was able to pull myself out of that slump relatively quickly. After graduation, she had me move into her family's guest house. I didn't have to work. My role was to manage the household, cleaning, grocery shopping, cooking, all the domestic chores. Over time, I gradually got used to it. I went from an ambitious young man with sky-high aspirations to a man quietly supporting a successful woman from behind the scenes. But even though she introduced me to everyone as her boyfriend, and she was genuinely good to me, both in public and in private, we never got intimate. The closest we ever got was hugging and holding hands. In all these years, we hadn't even kissed properly. She told me many times that she was a traditional girl and wanted to wait until marriage. At the time, I felt lucky to have found such a virtuous girlfriend. Until all my dreams were shattered on that one day, the day of the party, when Ryan Shaw sent me out for cigarettes. I forgot my phone, and on returning to the VIP room, I overheard their conversation. In that instant, my world truly collapsed. All the dreams that had structured my life ceased to exist. Sarah was the only thing left in my world, and now, suddenly, I was being told they were just playing me. I drank a lot that night. Sarah had someone carry me home. I desperately wished I could just get blackout drunk. And when I woke up the next day, I discovered it was all just a horrible nightmare. The next morning, I was sleeping soundly when Sarah woke me. "Ethan, today's your blood transfusion day at the hospital. How are you feeling? If you're not up to it, I can wait a couple more days." She knew I doted on her. How could I let her suffer for 2 more days? "I'm much better. It's fine, I can go." Now that I knew their game, I wanted to see what their ultimate goal was. "Are you sure you're okay? I saw you drink a lot last night. If you're not feeling well, really, don't force yourself." She looked at me with such tender concern, as if she genuinely cared. Fortunately, I already knew the truth. "I'm fine. Let's go." After freshening up, I got in her car, and we drove smoothly to the hospital. On the way, she noticed I was quiet and tried to cheer me up with various topics, but I just offered non-committal responses. Just before we entered the sterile phlebotomy room, Sarah suddenly grabbed my wrist. She seemed agitated, her grip tightening. "Let's go. We're not doing this today." I don't know why, but I have a really bad feeling. Her expression was frantic, her eyes slowly turning red, tears welling up. I smiled and gently pried her hand off. Don't worry, I'll be fine. Do you know how much it hurts me to know you're suffering for even one extra day? Sweet talk. Who couldn't do it? Besides, I used to be on the school debate team. You want to play games with my feelings? Fine. Don't blame me for putting on a show for you. Ignoring her pleas, I resolutely walked in. When the phlebotomist brought over the blood collection kit, I slipped a thick envelope of cash into his hand. 20 minutes later, I emerged, pale and unsteady on my feet, swaying slightly. When Sarah saw me, tears immediately streamed down her face. Ethan, let's not do these blood donations anymore, okay? Let's just be okay together from now on, please. No way. The doctor said your condition can't be cured, that you'll need transfusions to survive. But I promise you, before my blood runs dry, I will never let anything happen to you. At my urging, she wiped her tears and went into the transfusion room. Once she was inside, I immediately straightened up, my normal composure restored. Now that I knew their scheme, how could I possibly give her my blood? Those 2 bags of blood? I bought them from the doctor with that wad of cash. Then, I quietly followed her into the transfusion room. Just as I suspected, the nurse who came in with the blood bags was about to toss them into the medical waste bin. Sarah stopped her loudly. The nurse looked startled. Miss Davis, isn't this how we've always disposed of them? Don't throw them away. That's my boyfriend's blood. I want to take it home. Her hands trembled as she took the 2 blood bags, carefully placing them in her purse. She handled them as if they were precious treasures. I couldn't help but let out a derisive snort. Sarah, you used to act for me. Now you're taking your performance to a whole new level, putting on a show even when my back is turned. Fine, let's see who can outact whom. In the days that followed my donation, I was even better to her than before. She, too, seemed much improved. She started coming home on time after work and completely stopped going to gatherings with her friends. One day, I picked out a dog from a pet store. She saw when she got home. What made you decide to get a dog? You never said you liked dogs before. I was out for a walk today and just happened to see him. I thought he was cute, so I bought him. He can keep you company from now on. Hearing my words, she seemed to sense something was off, but couldn't quite pinpoint what it was. She came over and snuggled into my arms, looking at me affectionately. From now on, I only want you to keep me company. I held her, gently patting her back, but said nothing, my gaze empty and fixed on something in the distance. That evening, while she was in the shower, I sat on the couch, petting the dog and watching TV. I sensed her coming out. My performance began. Stroking the dog's fur, I murmured softly to it, I probably can't stay with her for much longer. I know my own body. When the time comes, I'll need you to be there for her. She might find someone who loves her even more, but I hope that when she sees you, she'll remember me. I don't want her to forget me, because I truly love her. My voice grew softer and softer, until finally I was sobbing. No, Ethan, you'll be okay. If you're not feeling well, why didn't you say so sooner? Come on, I'm taking you to the hospital right now. I'll make sure you get better. She ran over, crying, insisting on dragging me to the hospital. I was inwardly startled. Her acting was so convincing. If I hadn't grown up with her, I would have sworn she'd had professional training. I explained, I can still manage for now. I'm just worried that when I get older, my body won't be able to keep up with the blood production. Hearing my explanation, she let out a visible sigh of relief. Don't have that psychological burden. I'm actively working on my mindset too. Next time, I'll use blood from the hospital's blood bank. I don't want you to donate for me anymore. I just want you to be okay. With that, she leaned in and kissed me on the lips. Though it was just a brief touch, it was the first time I'd felt the softness of a woman's lips. Then she looked at me shyly, lowered her head, and ran back to her bedroom. But the anticipation I once felt for such a moment was now completely gone. Because deep down, I felt this too was part of her act. Once trust is broken, it can never truly be restored. I sat on the sofa and lit a cigarette. All my sacrifices for Sarah over the years replayed in my mind. I hadn't realized just how much I had given up for her. My once empty and bewildered eyes slowly sharpened, becoming deep and piercing. What's mine, I'll take back. What's not mine, I'll fight for anyway. From that day on, I treated Sarah even better. On top of everything else, I added constant texts and calls, countless expressions of care and concern. She, in turn, became even better to me. We weren't just putting on a show of affection in public anymore. In private, she would snuggle into my arms, our fingers intertwined, kissing and hugging. Only that final barrier remained uncrossed. She now came home on time every day and no longer went out with her friends. One day, I was returning from grocery shopping when, not far from our upscale house, I saw 2 familiar figures. It was Sarah and Ryan Shaw, apparently arguing about something. I slowly approached, using the landscaping bushes to conceal myself. Why are you always taking Ethan's side now? Have you fallen in love with him? Ryan gripped Sarah's shoulders, shaking her. Let go of me. Sarah roughly slapped his hand away. So what if I have? So what if I haven't? What's it to you? I must have been blind to have ever fallen for a scumbag like you. Now you call me a scumbag? What about when you were chasing after me relentlessly? I've been calling you to hang out these past few days, and you haven't shown up. I told you to get his blood, and you stopped. He's just the son of a driver as low as they come. He's not in our world. Only I'm good enough for you. You can only be happy with me. Ryan was extremely agitated, shouting loudly without any regard for who might be around. Smack! A loud slap echoed. Ryan's head snapped to the side, his eyes wide with disbelief as he stared at the furious woman before him. How dare you say, I can only be happy with you? Back then, to get revenge on Ethan for outshining you in everything at school, you practically gifted me to him as his girlfriend. You had me steal his work and give it to others, then framed him for plagiarism. You drugged me during his most important exams so he'd fail. And the one thing I can never forgive myself for is faking an illness and making him donate blood for me every month, far beyond what his body could handle. He's the one who truly loves me in this world. You're just scum. You're not even worthy of shining his shoes. Sarah was even more agitated than him, her voice louder. It was time for my entrance. Clatter. The groceries I just bought dropped to the ground. After carefully building up my emotions, my eyes were bloodshot, tears streaming down my face. I said nothing, just stared at them blankly. They both heard the noise and turned to look at me. Sarah's face instantly turned deathly pale. She practically stumbled over to my side, her lips trembling, unable to speak, her hands frantically trying to wipe away my tears. Was everything you just said true? I looked at her numbly, my voice laced with profound despair. Sarah just clung to me, sobbing uncontrollably, unable to utter a word. Yes, everything we said was true. Ryan sneered. So what if you're handsome and smart? You were still just a puppet in my hands. Do you know where all that precious blood of yours ended up? In the trash. Ha ha ha. Arg. He didn't notice Sarah had already run over, grabbed a loose brick from the landscaping, and smashed it violently against his head. It was a blow delivered with all the force of someone pushed to their absolute limit. Blood immediately gushed from Ryan's head. He clutched his head, looking at the blood pouring down, and let out a scream like a pig being slaughtered. He scrambled away, frantically calling for an ambulance. Sarah ran back to me, hugging my stunned form. Ethan, listen to me. I was wrong before. I have no excuses. But I understand now. I love you. I'll spend the rest of my life making up for my mistakes. Please, just forgive me, okay? Her words were earnest, her whole demeanor so desperate she was practically on her knees. You gave my work to others and then framed me for plagiarism. Do you have any idea what it's like to be ostracized by the entire school, students and teachers alike? You drugged me during my most important exams. I wanted so badly to do well, to get one step closer to success, so I could stand proudly by your side instead of hiding at home, mired in the daily grind, afraid to face anyone. But what chills me to the bone is that you took the blood I gave, risking my life, and threw it in the trash. Ugh, never mind. Hearing what you guys said just now, I suddenly feel like there's no damn point in living anymore. There's nothing left in this world for me to care about. With that, I pushed her away and started walking back to the house. She followed behind me, her attitude utterly demeaning, begging for my forgiveness. Once home, I started packing my clothes. Sarah frantically tried to stop me. What do you think you're doing? I won't let you leave. I put down the clothes in my hand. Fine, I can stay. Then you leave. One of us has to go today. But I've already admitted I was wrong. I've begged you so humbly to forgive me. Can't you just? I can't forgive you. Are you leaving? Or am I? My tone was firm, leaving no room for negotiation. I knew I couldn't forgive her too quickly, or she wouldn't cherish it, and I wouldn't be able to proceed with my next step of revenge. Someone who's been a stay-at-home partner for years can't exact revenge on their own. Seeing I wasn't joking, she finally relented. She packed her own clothes and left, telling me to take care of myself before she walked out. Every day after that, she would come to see me, bringing the most extravagant gifts. A scarf she'd knitted herself, takeout from fancy restaurants she encountered on business trips. Of course, I couldn't accept them. I'd throw them in the trash right in front of her, making her experience the pain of having her genuine feelings rejected. But she wasn't discouraged. She came every day, more punctual than a time clock. Until one night, an emergency earthquake warning flashed on my phone. It was pouring rain outside. I was fast asleep in bed, completely oblivious. The next morning, when I opened the door, I found Sarah collapsed on the doorstep, drenched from spending the entire night in the rain. I quickly called an ambulance and rushed her to the hospital. After a morning of emergency treatment, she finally opened her eyes. The first thing she did was frantically look around. When she saw me, she visibly relaxed. "You're okay. That's all that matters. Why were you standing outside my door all night in the rain? Trying to get sympathy? Isn't that a little childish?" My impatient tone cut her deeply. "Ethan, I really wasn't trying to get sympathy. Last night, my phone got an earthquake alert. I called you, but you didn't answer. I was so scared for you." I pulled out my phone and saw the alert was indeed there. My expression softened a little. "Don't do such foolish things again. I'm a grown man. What could happen to me?" Seeing my tone soften, her eyes lit up again. "Ethan, I truly know I was wrong. Can you please just give me one more chance?" I noncommittally said I'd arrange for a caregiver for her, that I was heading back, then left the hospital room. Seeing I hadn't outright rejected her, a smile appeared on her face. When she was discharged, she called me to pick her up. I went and drove her home. She invited me in, but I declined. After that, she started coming over to my place whenever she had free time. I treated her like a friend, but every time she tried to take things further, I rejected her. One time, she finally couldn't take it anymore. Crying, she asked me what more she had to do, given how much she'd already done. Looking at her, crying so heartbrokenly, I finally revealed my ultimate goal. "There's this one thing I just can't get over. When I think about all the terrible things Ryan Shaw did to me, and how he's just living his life, business as usual, partying like nothing happened. I just hate how useless I am." With that, I slammed my fist hard on the table. Sarah suddenly looked as if she'd been jolted awake. The hatred in her eyes deepened. "You're right. Our lives are miserable, so why should he be so carefree and happy every day? You wait. I'll make sure he doesn't get off so easy." Saying that, she practically ran out the door. A few days later, I was sipping coffee and scrolling through my phone when a local news alert popped up. Prominent local company, Shaw Corp, has filed for bankruptcy due to a broken capital chain. Simultaneously, the company has been found guilty of tax evasion and other serious violations. Chairman Robert Shaw, along with his son Ryan Shaw and wife, have fled to a neighboring country. That evening, Sarah came over with a load of groceries and 2 bottles of good wine. I went to take the bags from her, and we went into the kitchen together to prepare dinner. Soon, a lavish meal was spread on the table. She opened the wine and poured us both a glass. "Did you see the news?" she asked softly. I nodded. "The news said he and his son fled abroad. Didn't say where, though." "Huh. Where else could they go?" "I had a mutual friend set a trap for him. Told him about a business opportunity in some godforsaken boiler room in who knows where. High risk, but high profit. That fool and his family bought a hook, line, and sinker. They're probably making scam calls right now, but there's no way they're getting out of there alive. They know a lot of people, rich people, so they might last a bit longer. Once they're squeezed dry, it'll be time to sell them off for parts." Hearing about the Shaw's fate, I was quite satisfied. We were both very happy that night and drank a little too much. When I woke up the next morning, I found us both in bed, naked. Seeing I was awake, she quickly asked if my head was still spinning from drinking too much last night, but the triumphant smile on her face was impossible to hide. What happened?" I asked, feigning complete bewilderment. "Who knows? Anyway, you got my first time. You have to take responsibility for me." From that day on, I started working at her company as her assistant. With no prior work experience, I had to learn everything from scratch. But since it was my wife's company, everyone was pretty respectful, so I didn't encounter any major trouble. Next came the engagement, the wedding, and then Sarah got pregnant. I took over managing the company during her pregnancy. After giving birth to our son, she transitioned to being a stay-at-home mom, taking impeccable care of me and our boy. They say time is the best healer of psychological wounds, and it's absolutely true. Everything I once swore I wanted, I now had: a successful career, a beautiful wife, and a smart, well-behaved son. A bona fide winner in life. Just as the company was thriving under my leadership, I received a call one day from an unlisted number. When I answered, a familiar voice came through the line. A voice I knew all too well. It belonged to the only person I had ever truly hated in my life. He started pitching his company, claiming they produced raw materials our company needed at a price 20% lower than our current supplier. The catch was they required an upfront deposit. He kept talking, and I didn't interrupt him. I just listened, staring at my phone, for about half an hour. Finally, he asked me what I thought. I let out a soft chuckle. "Ryan Shaw, how have you been lately?" Silence on the other end. After a moment, he spoke again, his voice hesitant. "Is this Ethan Miller?" After I confirmed, he completely lost it, roaring into the phone. You son of a driver. What kind of spell did you cast on Sarah? Forcing her to ruin my family, to trick me into this godforsaken place. I'll haunt you even as a ghost. Then, I heard the sound of hurried footsteps on his end, followed by the delightful thwack of clubs hitting flesh, mixed with his miserable screams. To my ears, it was the most beautiful symphony. Unfortunately, it was too short-lived, stopping after about 5 or 6 minutes. Then, a stranger's voice. This guy hasn't closed a deal lately, and now he's clearly lost his mind. Contact disposal. Get rid of him. Hearing this, I smiled and hung up the phone. What goes around comes around. Payback's a bitch, and its time had definitely come.